Chapter 19, Part 2 of Adventures of Huckleberry Finn. Written by Mark Twain from the mid-1870s to mid-1880s, published in 1885, and read by Clay Shannon in 2020. Jim's eyes bugged out when he heard that, and I reckon mine did too. Then the bald head says, "No, you can't mean it." "Yes, my great-grandfather, eldest son of the Duke of Bridgewater, fled to this country about the end of the last century to breathe the pure air of freedom. Married here and died, leaving a son, his own father dying about the same time. The second son of the late Duke seized the titles and estates. The infant real Duke was ignored. I am the lineal descendant of that infant. I am the rightful Duke of Bridgewater. And here am I, forlorn, torn from my high estate, hunted of men, despised by the cold world, ragged, worn, heartbroken, and degraded to the companionship of felons on a raft." Jim pitied him ever so much, and so did I. We tried to comfort him, but he said it warn't much use. He couldn't be much comforted. Said if we was a mind to acknowledge him, that would do him more good than most anything else. So we said we would, if he would tell us how. He said we ought to bow when we spoke to him and say, "Your Grace," or "My Lord," or "Your Lordship." And he wouldn't mind it if we called him plain Bridgewater, which he said was a title anyway and not a name. And one of us ought to wait on him at dinner and do any little thing for him he wanted done. Well, that was all easy, so we done it. All through dinner, Jim stood around and waited on him and says, "Will your Grace have some of this or some of that?" And so on, and a body could see it was mighty pleasing to him. But the old man got pretty silent by and by, didn't have much to say, and didn't look pretty comfortable over all that petting that was going on around that Duke. He seemed to have something on his mind. So, along in the afternoon, he says, "Looky here, Bilgewater," he says, "I'm nation sorry for you, but you ain't the only person that's had troubles like that. No, you ain't. You ain't the only person that's been snaked down wrongfully out in a high place. Alas! No, you ain't the only person that's had a secret of his birth." And by jings, he begins to cry. "Hold, what do you mean? Bilgewater, can I trust you?" says the old man, still sort of sobbing. "To the bitter death." He took the old man by the hand and squeezed it and says, "That secret of your being, speak." "Bilgewater, I am the late Dauphin." "You bet your Jim and me stared this time. Then the Duke says, 'You are what?' Yes, my friend, it is too true. Your eyes is looking at this very moment on the poor disappeared Dauphin, Louis XVII, son of Louis XVI and Mary Antoinette." "You, at your age? No. You mean you're the late Charlemagne. You must be 600 or 700 years old at the very least." "Trouble has done it, Bilgewater. Trouble has done it. Trouble has brung these gray hairs and this premature balditude. Yes, gentlemen, you see before you in blue jeans and misery the wandering, exiled, trampled on, and suffering rightful king of France." Well, he cried and took on so that me and Jim didn't know hardly what to do. We were so sorry, and so glad and proud we'd got him with us, too. So we set in like we done before with the Duke and tried to comfort him. But he said it warn't no use. Nothing but to be dead and done with it all could do him any good. Though he said it often made him feel easier and better for a while, if people treated him according to his rights and got down on one knee to speak to him and always called him "Your Majesty." and waited on him first at meals, and didn't sit down in his presence till he asked them. So Jim and me set the majesty in him, and doing this and that and t'other for him, and standing up till he told us we might set down. This done him heaps of good, and so he got cheerful and comfortable. But the Duke kind of soured on him and didn't look a bit satisfied with the way things was going. Still, the king acted real friendly towards him and said the Duke's great-grandfather and all the other Dukes of Bilgewater was a good deal thought of by his father, and was allowed to come to the palace considerable. But the Duke stayed huffy a good while, till by and by the king says, "Like as not, we got to be together a blamed long time on this here raft, Bilgewater, and so what's the use of your being sour? It'll only make things uncomfortable. It ain't my fault I warn't born a duke, and ain't your fault you warn't born a king. So what's the use to worry? Make the best of things the way you find 'em, says I. That's my motto. This ain't no bad thing that we've struck here. Plenty grub and an easy life. Come, give us your hand, Duke, and let's all be friends." The Duke done it, and Jim and me was pretty glad to see it. It took away all the uncomfortableness, and we felt mighty good over it, because it would have been a miserable business to have any unfriendliness on the raft. For what you want above all things on a raft is for everybody to be satisfied and feel right and kind towards the others. It didn't take me long to make up my mind that these liars warn't no kings nor dukes at all, but just low-down humbugs and frauds. But I never said nothing, never let on, kept it to myself. It's the best way. Then you don't have no quarrels and don't get into no trouble. If they wanted us to call them kings and dukes, I hadn't no objections, long as it would keep peace in the family. And it warn't no use to tell Jim, so I didn't tell him. If I never learnt nothing else out of Pap, I learned that the best way to get along with his kind of people is to let them have their own way.